Eyup everyone, I hope that you're all doing alright. I've missed yous a lot. I feel really bad for not doing a full speed build route like that. I've been gone for just under 2 weeks now. I posted a few shorts, but obviously that's not me talking out like that. So yeah, I'm really happy to be back doing a voiceover today. This video is actually late. I was supposed to post it on Tuesday, but mate, everything is all over the place lately. What's new? I feel like every time I do a voiceover, I'm either complaining about something going wrong, or I'm ill, or something autism related, something family life related. I think that's just life in it. Everything's a bit chaotic. But yeah, last week I had a really bad IBS flare up, like unreal. Phoned the doctor and the doctor were like, I think this one's stress related because I've been eating like more often. I'm trying to get into the habit of eating 3 meals a day, which I know to most people probably sounds a bit silly. It's like, how is that something that you have to work for? Like, doesn't that just happen naturally? But no, I have a big problem with like reading my body's signals. So stuff to do with like needing toilet, if I'm in pain, like I don't always know where that pain's coming from, or I might feel a bit groggy and I think, why do I feel like irritated? And it's because I've got a headache or because I'm hungry. It's like a whole thing. I've talked about it quite a lot on my channel. For those that don't know, I was diagnosed as autistic in, God, what year are it? 2021? Yeah, it was like August, September. I've got the date written down somewhere because it's like my anniversary, autism anniversary thing. But yeah, basically, I'm autistic, so there's things that I struggle with that not a lot of people know that I think autistic people struggle with. I think a lot of people have this more stereotypical view of it. On like average, I would say. Obviously, not everybody. I'm not like an expert on autism myself. I can only really speak on my experience of it. But for me, I personally struggle with knowing when to eat. I don't really feel hunger until it's like later on in the day where I feel lightheaded and sick. And that's when I'm a bit like, oh, I feel shocking because I'm actually hungry and I'm not eating all day. But yeah, I'm making it my goal to eat more often because I'm just like exhausted all the time. I feel rough. I just feel like I've not got enough energy. And who knew that if you eat 3 meals a day that you actually have more energy? Obviously that's the case, but I'm a bit like, I don't know, I'm like surprised by it. I'm like, as if it makes that much of a difference. Because I guess you get used to a certain way of living. I mean, I don't only eat 1 meal a day. Like, I do sometimes have like snacks and stuff through the day, like if I want to have a snack. But for the most part, I definitely don't eat as much as I should do. I'm probably deficient in something. I've got a blood test coming up. But yeah, God, this is a long intro. But yeah, the reason why I was off sort of posting last week was I had this really bad IBS flare up that I think was stress induced because, like I said, I've been eating more frequently and there's been like stressful things happening. I mean, it's like the festive period, which I find incredibly stressful, and then just like life stuff. But I'm hoping that everything runs smoothly from now on. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm having a regular sort of bit TMI, but I'm having regular bowel movement, so that's fun. But yeah, I did post a few shorts just so that there wasn't absolutely nothing, but I was basically in bed for the majority of last week. Like, I'd come back from the school run and I'd lay down just to get warm because it's absolutely freezing at the minute, and I would fall asleep within seconds and I'd sleep right up until like 2 o'clock. So yeah, it's been a bit shit really, but for the most part I think I'm feeling a lot better now. Definitely got a bit more energy. Still got a way to go. I've only been at it for a week and a bit. But yeah, for the most part I'm feeling better. So, longest intro in the world. Today we're building another base game house for my save file. This is actually the last build of this neighbourhood, so I'd say we're about halfway through. I mean, I guess it depends how you look at it. So we've done the like starter home area. What is that called? I can't remember. This is the area where the pancakes house normally is. So this is like the last house in that little section, I think. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it is. And I don't know whether to move on to doing the community lots next or keep doing residential and then do community lots last. My initial idea was to do the community lots last just because like I'm not as good at community lots, or I find them more difficult to do. So I thought if I approach them last, then it's like, I don't know, I just thought it were a good idea. But I might actually do them like next and then do the bigger houses last, because that's another thing that I struggle with. And there's a lot of houses that I've got to do that are like big, so like the Spencer Kim Lewis household. Not sure if they're going to stay in the save file. I'm kind of in two minds about it. Some original like families that are like originally in the game are still there. Sorry, by the way, if the voiceover's all over the place. I've had a break, so I've actually forgot how to speak. But yeah, so the pancakes are still here. I think I'm going to keep the goths, and there's other families that are still here. But I am going to fill all the houses apart from maybe one or two. So I think this house is going to be empty, but I'm not entirely sure. I didn't really have an idea for this one, like what type of family would live here, until maybe about halfway through. I will say that I tried to go with like a peachy, somewhat colourful interior for this one. I don't really know why. I think I've just been building a bit more beige and more neutral, and I don't want all the interiors of the houses looking the same. It's just difficult when you're building a base game. Like, I know what I like out of the base game and I know what colours I like, and it's very difficult to like go in a different direction and stuff, but I tried my best with this one. I've discovered this swatch in this base game wood flooring. I did a pastel apartment and this swatch just really spoke to me. It's very peach toned. I really like the look of it. I think before I was just put off by it because I didn't know what to pair with it, but I just used it in this build and I thought it looked pretty cute. It's got a very like warm sort of interior. There's a lot of like warm tones, peachy tones, and then obviously I used dark wood for the parents' bedroom. But again, I'm not really sure what type of family would live here. It's just two parents and then a teenage boy and a child boy. I don't feel like I've got enough like young Sims that are boys. I think I've got a lot of female Sims, so I'm trying to make enough that, say if you were to download and play the save file, that you would have enough potential couples for the future, which is a bit weird because it's like, well, the child Sim. But whenever I play Sims 2, I always try and have like enough genders to like fit together, you know what I mean? And I like to have a mixture of obviously different identities, different sexualities, and I kind of make child Sims with that in mind, like the potential anyway. And then with teen Sims, I focus more on like their identity. So I think there's a few non-binary Sims in the world, and there's a range of queer Sims actually. I definitely wanted to represent myself in the save file and the community that I'm part of. So there's ace Sims, there's trans Sims, like I said, non-binary, just a full broad spectrum of queer Sims in the save file because, like I said, that's important to me. And as well to have a diverse range of backgrounds and cultures as best I can with the base game. Obviously we don't have like loads of stuff to represent like everybody on the planet, but I did my best with the stuff that we've got and definitely wanted a range of skin tones. And yeah, I hope that I'm explaining all that all right. But yeah, in general, I just wanted a save file full of obviously nice builds and all of that, but also nice Sims that represent a lot of different people, a lot of different backgrounds, life experiences, all that sort of thing. And I just didn't fancy having a save file where it's just full of Sims that just look like me, you know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, that was just really something that I wanted to do from the inception of the idea, really. But yeah, that's just my personal approach with this one. And when I finish the save file, like when I've done all the builds for it and everything, I will do a tour. I don't know when that will be. I'm hoping springtime next year. I do really want to crack on with it and get it finished. But obviously I don't want to just build base game houses and that be the only thing. I mean, I could probably get it done by the end of the year if I really set my mind to it, like before the year's over, but I doubt that that will happen. So we'll just see, And I have decided also to do Oasis Springs. I'm not sure like when that will happen. I'll probably release the save file as just Willow Creek to begin with. Obviously, how a save file works, well, I say obviously, it's not obvious if you don't know, but if you didn't know, how a save file works is basically if I made a base game only save file, you would get in that save file only base game things. So oh my god, how do I explain it? I feel like that's obvious, but it's like, yeah, but how does it work? So if you downloaded my save file and it's just Willow Creek, Oasis Springs would be the same how the Sims team made it. Like nothing would be different in there. Newcrest would be empty. You know what I mean? Like it'd be that sort of thing. Whereas if you fully do a base game save file and you do all the world, then obviously when you download it, it'll have the same thing that that person put in. So initially the Willow Creek save file will just be Willow Creek and then Oasis Springs will be empty, but I do want to move on and do Oasis Springs eventually. I weren't gonna because I thought it were a big undertaking, but now I'm like halfway through this one. I'm wanting to move on to doing Oasis Springs and that, and expanding the save file. And I've always said that I would never remake Newcrest, but never say never and all that. I might do. We'll see what happens. But yeah, anyway, let me talk more about the build. So obviously I said before, there's a teenager, there's a child sim. I imagine that they'd have 2 boys, but obviously you could have any type of sim, any gender sims in these bedrooms. Just because it's blue and sports themed doesn't necessarily mean that it's just for a boy. Obviously it could be anybody, but that's just how I imagined it. Initially I was gonna have a toddler bedroom, but I just couldn't settle on any of the swatches, and I don't know, I didn't really like the layout. It's a very like narrow room, but it's like kind of long, so it's like a bit awkward. So I kind of struggled with what I wanted to put in it, but I was happy with it in the end. And I like that it's kind of mismatched. Like they've got some grey furniture, they've got the childlike looking furniture. I like the posters that I put up as well, and I also had to put in that little koala chair for the child sim and stuff. I really like that one where it's got like a straight face. It's like proper funny. I was going to use that, but I thought no, we'll give him a koala, because otherwise every child in this save file will have the same chair, which is not very realistic. But yeah, I really like how the kids' bedroom turned out. It's a lot better than what I started off with. Like I originally, like I said, started off with a toddler's room, and it just looked crap. Honestly, it just looked like, I don't know, it just looked bad. But anyway, moving on to the living room now. This is another like kind of weird layout. I feel like in my builds I always have to have a room that doesn't really make much sense in terms of where the furniture is and stuff, but it's just where the chimney is. I was struggling like where to put the furniture around it, and then I didn't want this like leftover space, and I also want them to have a TV, so I was just kind of like struggling where to put it. I could have put the TV above the fireplace, which I were going to do initially, like when I was planning the room out and everything. But I don't know, I just didn't like how it looked. I know that the Sims don't really care where the TV is. It don't matter how high up on the wall it is, they'll watch it regardless. But I don't know, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of people playing in the build and then having the Sims like basically looking at the ceiling watching TV, because it'd be so high up. Obviously the settee is quite close to the fireplace and everything. So I was just like, no, we're not doing that. So I kind of did this thing where I kind of split the room in half. Not really. I'm not really sure if I like it, to be honest. Again, I always do this where I like it and I'm building and I'm happy, and then I watch the speed build as I'm editing or recording the voiceover and I'm like, that looks crap. That's what I did with the toddler room that became a child's room. Like I furnished it as a toddler room. When I was editing the speed build, I was just like, no, I'm not having that. We'll get rid of it, start again, and we'll have a child sim instead. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it looks alright to you, but what do you think? I'd love to know. Any feedback is welcome. I just think it looks a bit odd, and now I'm kind of regretting it. I don't know, but I know that I wouldn't have been able to settle on having the TV above the fireplace, so it's like you can't win either way. If I'd had the TV above the fireplace, I'd be sat here saying, oh, I ought to have done something different now. So you can't win, honestly. I'm my own worst critic. But yeah, I do like in general like how the living room turned out. I think it looks quite cozy. Very jealous of that fireplace. I could do with a fireplace right now. It's absolutely freezing at the minute. I think we're supposed to get snow this week, so if you live in UK, good luck to you. Obviously with the energy costs what they are at the minute, you don't really want to put the heating on, but it's like you got to, aren't you? You can't really go out, but then obviously some people don't really have a choice, and it's like, oh my god, like we have a pay-as-you-go thing, so you use what you actually use. So obviously some people get a bill where it like tells you what you owe at the end of it, and some people I've heard are choosing not to pay for it because they literally can't afford it. But with ours we can't really do anything like that. We have to pay for what we use as we use it, and every day it's like, you only have £5 left on your gas meter, and it's like, what? How? But yeah, it's scary times, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's so stressful, but it's freezing. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Like there's frost on ground today, which by my dad's standards, and he's a typical Yorkshireman, tight-fisted with money, so like don't like spending it, he says we can't have heating on. Well, when I lived at home, he said we couldn't put the heating on until there were frost on ground. So by his own rules and his own logic and his own money-saving ways, it's time to put the heating on. But yeah, it is absolutely freezing. So I would have loved to have a fireplace and just sit around that and be cozy. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop moaning about that. I don't want to get anybody feeling down about it. And then for the kitchen, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this one. It's very different to what I'd normally build. I don't think I've ever used the swatches of the counters before. Maybe I did when I first started playing, but I've not used them for a long time, especially since the swatches got updated. I like the upper cabinets, but the lower cabinets, I don't know, something about looks a bit off, and also that tiling as well that's on the wall. I like it, I like how it turned out, but I was just trying to build out of my comfort zone and try not to go with the same interior, which I tend to do with base game builds, like I said before, because I know what swatches I like, I know what furniture I like. But I tried to go somewhat modern with this one. The other builds in this area are leaning a bit more like, I don't even know the style, I guess like mission style, and a bit like Victorian kinda, not really, like somewhat Victorian, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think in general I like how it turned out, and I decided to separate off the entryway just so it were a bit less like open plan and to have like a separated entryway to the build. And I think I like the layout a lot better like this than what it was originally, and it allowed me to fit the kitchen in a better way as well, because it doesn't really look right when you've got like a really long wall and the kitchen's on one wall, you know what I mean? So I liked sort of splitting it off and having it like that, and then obviously putting a chess table just because that's really the only thing that fit there. And I like to put chess tables in builds, especially base game ones, because it's like, what else you're gonna have? They don't have a lot of activities to do they, bless them. But yeah, and then for this part I thought, I've not done this like for a while, I thought I'd do like a fashion designer room or whatever. I can't remember what the career is called, I think it's style influencer, but there's a base game career that they added like ages ago, I can't even remember when. I think it was when Moschino stuff came out, and it's the style influencer career. So there's a little board thing that they get with it, and yeah, they can have a job doing that. I think it's freelance, I'm not entirely sure, I can't really remember. But then I feel like you could apply for it on the computer. Honestly, I can't remember, I haven't done gameplay for so long. But yeah, I thought maybe one of the parents could be into fashion design, so they've got their own little office that's dedicated to that. So yeah, I think it turned out alright. I was originally going to put a grand piano in here, but I just think a grand piano in a tiny room, it's just like, why bother? Why bother doing it? Just fit more stuff in and get rid of piano. Like, it just seems a bit, I don't know, impractical to me, and it just looks a bit weird. And it probably like deafen you and all. Like, imagine playing a massive piano in a tiny little box room. No, couldn't do it, couldn't be me. But yeah, then moving on to the back garden. Oh my god, something about watching The Sims when it's sunny, just, I don't know, it makes me miss like the warm weather. But I know for a fact when it gets to warm weather I'll be stressed out because it's too hot, and I don't like the feeling of feeling like sticky and like sweaty and stuff. Ugh, you can't win. You cannot win living in England. Either moan that it's too hot, moan that it's too cold, it's too rainy, it's too windy, it's too dry. Like, you can't win. I mean, it's never dry. Yeah, it's never dry because it's, you know, we live on an island, so it's very humid. But yeah, either way, I decided to put some like landscaping either side and just kind of make the garden look like nicely landscaped, I guess. And then I thought, why don't we have a pond? Like, I never do ponds in people's gardens. I think it looked quite cute, and I used the fountain tool to make it rather than the actual pond tool, because I wanted it to look like, I didn't want it to look like a pond, you know what I mean, like a pond that had formed in nature. I wanted it to look like the Sims had actually dug a hole in their garden and put some stuff in it to make it into a pond with like a filtration system and all that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like a proper man-made one, not a naturally occurring one. And then I just decided to put some debug rocks around it. I don't think I've ever used these ones, but I liked that they had a little bit of like algae on them, or like muck and moss or whatever it is. And I just kind of wanted this little bit to kind of look natural, but obviously it's not natural. But you know when people make stuff and they want it to look natural, that sort of thing. It's a very weird thing to try and describe. I wanted it to look like the Sims had made it themselves and built it there, but also natural. I'm sure someone will know what I mean. But yeah, I quite like how it turned out. And it's not a pond that your Sims can fish from. I mean, you do you if you want to put a fishing sign in, but something about that to me made me feel uncomfortable. The idea that someone would have fish in a pond, like in the back garden, and then fish from it, because it's like, they're like pets, aren't they? They're like pets that you have outside. I don't know, I've never owned a fish pond or really ever interacted with one. One of my kids' great nanas has one, but I couldn't tell you all about it. I think they've got like a goldfish that's massive, and that's all I know. But yeah, that was the idea behind it. And then obviously I had to go with a barbecue thing in the back garden. I just love having them. I think they're probably in every build that I do, but I like it when I get Sims together and they have like a family barbecue in the garden in the summer or when it's nice. And if you do only have base game, there's no rain, it's sunshine all the time, so you can have barbecues in garden every day. You don't have to rely on the weather. And then yeah, I was just kind of struggling with the layout of the floor and stuff, and like what I wanted it to look like. I didn't want that like patio flooring and the fence thing that I've got down to clash with the pond too much. I think it looks a little bit odd, but I don't know, maybe I can kind of get away with it. I think the fencing kind of just breaks it up a bit too much. I might even remove that. I'll leave it, and then if you want to remove it, you can. But yeah, then I just put down a couple more things, gardening things, sun loungers. Went with the grilled cheese swatch for the sun loungers because I've never used it before and I thought it was fun. And then yeah, after that we'll be at the screenshots. So I'm going to wrap up the voiceover now. I really hope that you enjoyed this one. It's been fun chatting to you and yeah, just having a bit of a catch up, complaining, you know what I mean? It do you some good. If you want to complain about something in your life, feel free to the comments or let me know what you've been up to. I'd be interested to know because I've missed chatting with you and yeah, just having a bit of a vent and talking shit. So anyway, if you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like on it, and if you want to download this build, my gallery ID is HutchPlays. Also, don't forget, or in case you missed it, I am now doing build requests. I've got a few back, so thank you to the people that submitted them. I'm going to crack on with them as soon as I can. But if you want to submit a build request and have me build you something, the form is linked in the description. And yeah, anyway, I've run out of time, so I'm going to go. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.